All right, so nothing too surprising about what we're seeing here. Again, we're seeing sort of a high-level work summary about things that are awaiting assignment or overdue, or how many things have been completed this month. We do have some help documents that are available over here, and then some charts and stuff like that that are relative to work. So we're gonna see a little bit of that as we go. Now, this is kind of a big dashboard here. However, what I'm going to be doing in the next couple of minutes here is we're going to walk through what it looks like to submit a work request, and what it looks like as it goes through the process of being assigned and completed, et cetera. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to be using a couple of different users who don't have quite the same rights as I do. So initially here, again, I'm an admin, and we have access to basically everything here, but we're gonna see what it looks like for lower rights users as we go. Again, nothing super surprising. The only thing that might be a little bit different from what we were seeing on the space dashboard is, of course, we've got these little tags that are just sort of indicating that things may or may not need our attention. So I am assigned as a trade supervisor. I am also a trades worker. That's why I'm getting sort of all these different sections here, this dashboard. Normally, if you are a trade supervisor, you would essentially get the shared section and the trade supervisor section. Again, we'll sort of see what that looks like in a minute. So I want to submit a request. Incidentally, I didn't really mention this earlier, but all of these forms, even the complicated floor plan forms, are all usable from different devices. So if you are coming in on a phone or a tablet or whatever, all of these things can be used with those different devices. Some of the stuff like the more in-depth space management with the floor plans are probably going to be a little bit awkward on a tiny phone, but could certainly be done and is often done on tablets and things like that. So here is a basic service request here, and so a couple of different sections. Of course, it knows who I am here at the top, and we can just go down here and fill this out. So our problem, again, all of this stuff would be customizable, and you can edit these things directly. In fact, let me just go back to the dashboard here. So right here in background data, for example, this is where kind of all of the stuff that feeds all of the little lookup tables. So the problem categories, you can just add your own here, delete. These are just the sample ones that are available here. Okay, so let's just say it's a fire safety, and we'll say that there's some smoke. You may not have hurricanes in your states, but you can have other buttons here that may be relevant. For example, some of our customers have buttons that say things like vandalism or customer complaint, or other things that may be sort of relevant to the kinds of problems that you're reporting, or that your internal customers are reporting. Again, another common one would be this safety hazard, and depending on which of these buttons are clicked, you can set up rules that tell it needs to do different things. Like, okay, if it's a safety hazard, we need to email so-and-so that is in charge of, when there's some sort of safety hazard happening. We can specify our building. So in my case here, I'm going to select a building and a floor, and then I can zoom in and click on a space. If I didn't want to use the drawing, or if you don't want it to default to the drawing, it can just go to a list view instead, but I'm going to say my problem is right there. Additionally, I can say, if this was like a big, really big space, or perhaps a long corridor or something like that, I could give some sort of, southern end or whatever here, some sort of additional detail about where that's located. And then finally, the last required bit here, and I guess I should have mentioned, not a big surprise, but all these little red areas here are required. So let's say, is this thing supposed to be smoking? Finally, you can upload attachments, so pictures or documents or whatever, and you can actually dictate what kinds of files they're allowed to upload here. So pretty clear what's happening here, I'm sure, but does this seem like those selections would pretty much cover it? Are there other things you can think that you would want to collect from your customers? I'm not
Not
hearing
that I
anybody
can,
else.
not that I can think of.
Okay.
No.
So we can submit that. It'll tell us that we should expect to receive an email, and that's part of this whole process. Of course, is that you can control under what circumstances who is notified and whatnot. So immediately coming back to my dashboard, actually, I have a new message right here. So this is telling me the service request was received. I can view what that email was, and this is the email that would have been physically sent to me. Because this is a sample system, I have it basically set up to be just caching those emails, so it's not actually sending that. Now, let me actually just go into background data real quick, just to show something here. Under assignment rules, so this is sort of what we talked about last week. You basically told us, oh, look, we don't really have separate trades, but you do have separate teams. And so depending on what building the problem is associated with, or potentially what piece of equipment the problem is associated with, it'll get routed automatically to different trades. So I did set up this one rule right here. Again, just ignore the name and everything. The idea here is basically anything that comes in the southern region is going to be assigned to a trade or a team called the southern region team. So rather than the ticket coming in under requested status and needing to be reviewed by a work manager or something like that, it'll just immediately be approved and it'll be assigned to the appropriate trade supervisor. Okay, so I have a different interface here. I'm logged in as a different user here. And so I am a trade supervisor. And so this ticket that we just saw has now showed up in my queue. Now, what I didn't actually set up, though would be very easy to do, is to set up another button in the trades worker area so that if a trades worker actually came in, they could see like an available work area, right? And they could just assign it to themselves. But for now, we're walking through this as though the team leader or trade supervisor needs to look at it first. So this is the trade supervisor version of that same dashboard. So this particular trade supervisor, this at least is common with our customers. This guy is also a trades worker. So he's got the shared area, so he can look at background data. He can look up building floor plans if he needs to, et cetera. But he also has access to trade supervisor. This is sort of his core work right here. And then the trades worker area. So I was just mentioning earlier, there can also be a little button right here that would allow trades workers to claim work based on what we discussed last week. So I could show that off, in the future. All the widgets that he has are sort of related to him. So this is my trade summary, telling me how many hours my guys have done, how much time they've done. How many hours all of my different dudes have done over the last 7 days there, including contractors if those people are needing to be included. So here I can look at my team. This is all the people who have been assigned to my trade. But really, let's just go through the process. The next thing that needs to happen, and again, it's red, so it tells me I need to do something here. So I can come in and look at my labor assignment. So here's that ticket we just made. I can see that it has an attachment. If there were additional internal comments, there would be a little comment icon up here. So here we have just kind of the basic stuff. I can dive in and look at the view edit if I want to see this in detail. I can print this out to a 1 or 2 page PDF that shows the location, shows the details, etc. I can also do things like emailing the requester or calling them if there's a phone number available. But really the main thing I want to do now is I want to assign a trades worker to do this. So this is a pretty small team I've got here. I've just got one contractor that's associated with my trade. You can see this particular contractor is actually associated with a number of different trades, but my trade is the one that's going to be considered here. So I can say, oh, I want to assign this contractor and I want to assign this trade worker right here. So once I do that, it actually drops off this list because this particular list, all it's expecting you to do is to delegate the work out to whoever needs to do it. So if I want to go back to my dashboard now, you'll see the numbers have shifted around. So instead of it being on labor assignment, it's now showing in process. So while that is in process, I'm going to come over here. And this is the interface. Again, I'm sort of faking a phone interface here using Chrome. But so this is what it looks like as the trades worker. So the trades worker still has access to looking up building and equipment information if they want. They may or may not actually have access normally to build background data and reporting. And they, of course, always will have access to submit their own requests and check statuses for anything that they have submitted. But their main work is going to be right here in the center. So this is work that is currently open that I need to do. I can also look at my sort of global statistics, as well as, again, this may or may not be relevant to you, but they can do some time off related things here. A lot of times that would be done in some other system, but you know, if that needs to go through this system for work, then it can be included here. All right, let's click on my work. Again, simple list of stuff that I need to do. And I can click on this. I can, you know, go and look at the full details. I can print it just like I could from the other interface. Or, you know, I'll just step straight in and start adding some hours and costs and completing it. So I know that you said that currently you aren't doing hours and costs and stuff like that. But I did want to show that, you know, that this can be done here if you wanted to. So just real quick, super simple, come in, enter a new timesheet. So if I want to say that, you know, I did 4 hours here and, you know, somehow one of that was overtime, description is optional. I'm going to just leave that blank. So there's my 5 hours of time. And then we can also add expenses. So this is, we do have dedicated interfaces also for parts if you were potentially going to do parts, but I know you are not maintaining a warehouse right now, so that may not be relevant. But if you did want to have them submit stuff like this, like, oh, I do have parts that I needed for this, you know, it's $45 and, you know, got parts from the store. Not showing here, but there is also another section that can be toggled on that would require them to upload a photo of receipts and stuff like that if that was something you wanted them to do. All right, so we've got our hours, we've got our time, excuse me, our costs, and I can come back here, and so I could continue work. You know, maybe if this was over the course of several days, you know, you could add additional time, etc. But whenever I'm ready, I can just say I'm done here. So this is required, and this could potentially, depending on your work process, this could go back to the requester. That'll be up to the trade supervisor. I'll show you what that looks like in a second. So, all right. So again, we're seeing all this from the perspective of, you know, just using a phone, entering a couple of comments here and there. Most of it doesn't require a keyboard or anything like that. It's just, you know, enter a number for hours and, you know, mark your work as complete. The other thing that wasn't showing there is that there are some circumstances where you might want to demand that they take a picture of the completed work or something like that. That's another option that that was not showing right there. All right, so that's our trades worker, and they are done. And so if I come back here to my trade supervisor, oh, that's right. We also assigned a contractor. So if it was just that one guy, it would have already shown up in awaiting completion. But because we added a contractor, we need to come in here ourselves. So this is another sort of branch point where things may be different in different organizations. If it's a contractor, you can give them rights to come in and serve as a trades worker, like what we just saw. But that may be too much, asking them, you know, too much. It's one thing to ask your actual dedicated employees to do, you know, stuff in your interface. It's another to demand that external contractors do the same thing. So the other option is, actually there are two other options. One is that they can receive an email, which they would have done anyway. The contractors can receive emails notifying them that they've been assigned to this work. But that email that they receive can actually have a little button in it that just says, hey, click here if this work is done. So if you just want to ask them to do
Oh,
just
okay.
that, you can have them, just click a button. It won't make them log in. It'll essentially generate a unique URL where it'll give them a little interface where, again, customizable. If you want to ask them to upload documents or something like that, all that could be done. Or alternatively, the email that they get sent can have a reply to that would just reply to either a work manager or the trade supervisor, whoever needs to receive the notification that the contractor says the work is done. But in the meantime, let's just go in and do this ourselves. So we come in here as the trade supervisor, and it is warning us, hey, if you're going to close this, just be aware that one of the people didn't notify you that they were done. Not surprising, again, because that's a contractor. But you can see our trades worker guy here. He did finish his work. He's got 5 hours, no travel time. He's got some expenses. And again, we can look up the details, view some in-depth information about that. We can also email them directly if we wanted to ask them a question or something like that. But let's just go ahead and let's just fill this out for our contractor. So we're going to say they're done. And let's just enter some costs here. So this, again, this may be overkill. Maybe you just want a dead simple, number just to enter overall cost or something like that. But whatever. So you can see the trade supervisor version of this is very simple, very similar to what we saw for the trades worker. And contractor said they are done. So I know I probably sound like a broken record, but all customizable. If you don't want to require all this stuff, you just want to be able to click a simple button that says the contractor is done, that is available. So I can hit save right there. And so now you'll see everybody is marked as complete. So, like if you just want a button that says, a third button here that says, mark this person as complete, and you wouldn't have to go into all those forms and do all that extra work. So down here is where I can decide whether or not the requester, when they get notified that this work is done, should they be seeing these comments right here? Do I want to tell all my guys that they should write comments that are going to be appropriate for the customer, or do I just want to enter my own stuff? So I want to add some detail here, but I'm just going to finish with that. So if I hit Save Changes, then the request is no longer in process. It's been completed, so it drops out of this list. Right, so all of our numbers will have updated here. Our completion counts and all that will have updated. And let's actually come back here to our work manager dashboard. Incidentally, because I submitted that, of course, I did get a notification that this has been completed. And so here's, obviously the basics of the submission, as well as the closing comment. So, here's my additional detail. I had that option, of course, to say whether or not I wanted to include the notes from my my team, which was included right there. So the requester won't get details about costs and things like that unless that's something you actually want to go back to them. Okay, and so I'm going to just dive in here as a work manager. You'll see that sort of from one form, like if you want to do all this yourself, rather than it, going through that multi-role process, like this can all be managed from a single form here. So all of that stuff we saw that, the trades worker was adding hours and stuff like that, all that can be done here as well. So documents that are associated with this ticket, we can look at our resources here, which would be, adding our trades and adding our trades workers, our internal comments for it, as well as a complete history. So this will track any changes to this ticket, the status changes as it goes, as well as any emails that have gone out on behalf of this this ticket. And so like right here in the middle, you'll see that, we have sort of a basic status flow. There are also some other statuses. And again, this is all customizable based on what your process looks like. But you may need to reject certain tickets. Certain things might want to be on hold. And, based on these status changes, the requester will get, different notifications. Again, if you want, telling them that their ticket has been put on hold, et cetera. One thing I didn't really go over is, you can print these things to PDF, and there's a couple of different formats. And this would be just another thing we would work with you on what you want to do with this. But shows where the location is. So, for example, contractors, if you are going to have them receive emails that explain what it is you're expecting from them, if you need to include the floor plan or include a map or something like that, those things can be included in those notifications. So really, the only other thing to talk about, I mean, we could dive into, we're obviously running out of time here. We could dive into equipment and show how to, do things like equipment audits. But I think that stuff like that we will leave for, future discussions if need be. And unfortunately, I just realized that I've kind of not spent enough time on talking about PM. So let's just dive in here real quick.
Yeah, so I don't know what your guys' schedule, but if we go a little bit over, I'm okay.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I can go a little bit over. I do have something I need to be doing here in a little while, but I can do a couple extra minutes here. So yeah, equipment and preventive maintenance. So the tickets themselves are managed in a very similar way to what we just saw. The tickets will be generated and allocated in a similar manner. It's just obviously somebody doesn't have to go to an individual form to make that request. But just so we're clear on exactly what's happening, we have sort of 3 different things we're looking at here in PMs. So we have the equipment itself. We have
Can I stop you real quick question?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So do you either in a like a PDF form that you had previously sent over, something that like breaks down or details the preventative maintenance or equipment and preventative maintenance, or is it okay if I screen record or whatever so I can talk to my boss after this and show her like,
yeah, I mean,
this
absolutely.
is the piece that's.
Yeah, we can send you some documentation, but I encourage you to take screenshots. And I don't know, Nick may actually be recording this. I'm not sure.
Oh, beautiful.
Okay, so yeah, let's talk about how this works here. So we've got our equipment form here, and so this is just going to break things. Again, this is going to look like all the other forms in the system. We've got filters and things like that in order to find some piece of equipment that we want. We do have stuff that can be shown on a map. This is going to be a little bit silly here. Again, this was based on a little demonstration we were doing for somebody, but if you have external equipment that you want to show on a map, all of that stuff can be fiddled with here. You can click on things, get the details about them, create service requests, look at their PMs from the map here. Also, like if you're out in the field with a phone, for example, and you have barcodes on equipment, this is how you can scan a barcode and actually look up a piece of equipment immediately. But so we have all of our equipment details here, and then we also have all of our reusable procedures. And so the combination of those 2 things results in the actual schedules. So I'll just sort of briefly talk about the procedures themselves. We can obviously click on any of these. So this is an air compressor monthly procedure that we would run on potentially hundreds of different air compressors if need be. So basic details here about what's happening. Obviously, we've got our main body of what needs to be done. This is can just be text like this. It can be the little check areas and stuff like that. And if there need to be documents or something like that that are associated with this, that like a manual or something, Those manuals can either be sort of attached to the PM, or it can be something that a trades worker or somebody like that can look up based on the equipment, et cetera. Just a couple of little details here about the ticket itself that will come out. So when a piece of equipment needs this procedure done, this is the problem category and problem type that those come out in. So this could be adjusted based on what you want to see and what your reporting requirements are. The only other thing that's sort of relevant here is the completion dependent. So basically, this dictates whether next time this schedule comes up, if our current one has not been completed, should I still kick out another PM, or should I wait until the current one has been completed? So if there's like a huge backlog, you don't want 5 of the same procedure to come out for one piece of equipment. You don't want to do that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, et cetera, when it's a 3-month schedule or something like that. So while you certainly would like to be keeping up with the work that needs to be done, this can help sort of alleviate that problem if that's something you're running into. Up here at the top, of course, you can see that there are 6 schedules that are associated with this procedure. So 6 different pieces of equipment that are associated with this. Last little thing is that down here, you can associate a recurrence pattern with the procedure as a whole. And so, anytime this gets associated with an equipment, you won't have to re-specify, this needs to happen every 3 months, but you can override it at the schedule level as well. So let me actually back up and let's look at the schedules. So this is our complete list. The sample system here has only got 137 total schedules. But so again, every entry here is a unique combination of the equipment plus the procedure. So, obviously each piece of equipment may have multiple schedules, and each procedure may be reused. You can see test emergency lights here, for example, is reused many times. Incidentally, there is a calendar version of this, so you can see things that are coming up. Again, lots of customizable options here in terms of how this information is presented. You can see that on yesterday, basically there were supposed to be 7 location PMs that came out and 1 piece of equipment PM, and you can just sort of cycle forward and take a look at any of these. So if I want to click on this, I can see like, oh, here are the 16 tickets that are scheduled to come out on that particular day. And actually, clicking on any of these, you can actually you can generate some of those tickets early if you wanted, or delete one of the schedules, or lots of other little things you can do there. So I can click on one of these individual schedules and get some more detail here. Incidentally, I can also force this schedule. So if I have some sort of upcoming PM that I want to generate a ticket for it immediately, I can do that here and move on from there. That'll just directly generate that. Now, each of these individual schedules by default are going to produce an individual ticket. So that may be overwhelming depending on how you are doing your PM work. But again, that's a point of customization if you would like to combine a series of schedules. So for example, just do all of the filters in this one building or something like that. The individual pieces of equipment can still be managed individually, but it's a little less overwhelming for a trades worker. So they don't go out in the field with 6 identical pieces of paper or almost identical pieces of paper that are telling them to do change a filter that takes 10 minutes or something like that. But clicking on this schedule, again, sort of common stuff across the top here: documents, internal comments, and any active tickets. This particular schedule doesn't currently have tickets out. But down here you can see our recurrence pattern. So it started 2020, and it's repeating every the 3rd Wednesday of every 3rd month. So there's lots of sort of intricate options here that you can set. Not showing here, there's also seasonal changes that you can set. Again, don't want to get too deep in the weeds. It can get a little bit overwhelming with all the sort of scheduling options. But the other thing to point out is just kind of, looking ahead, these are the dates where this particular thing should generate tickets. Finally, schedules like this can be pre-assigned to people or to contractors, such that every 3 months when this generates a ticket, it'll just be directly assigned to this person. It won't have to go through a trade supervisor, at least not on the front end, right? It'll get assigned to the trades worker. They can fill out their details. The trade supervisor will then see it in their awaiting completion list. And again, this can go to a contractor, and they can be prompted to either just mark it as complete, or however you want the process to function. Let's see here. Well, I guess that's sort of it for now. Do you have any sort of questions? Does that PM process make sense? I know we sort of blazed through that in 10 minutes, but
No, yeah, that makes that. Yeah, it's everything so far. It looks to be extremely simple.
we'd like to say that we have a comprehensive system, but it's still simple.
Right.
And obviously one of the ways to simplicity is to work with you guys to understand what your work process is. Let's eliminate the buttons that people don't need to click on, and as much as we can streamline forms, especially if you as sort of the owner of the application understand kind of where we started with how deep it can go, then streamlining all the forms is great, because that if it needs to be more complicated, it can be, but it doesn't have to be. So yeah, I obviously didn't really spend too much time talking about reporting and work, but so I'll just click on one or two of these things here, just to give you some examples of the kinds of stuff that are common. So completions and costs that are across the fiscal year. So in this case, fiscal year was set to I guess July 1st, and so how many different tickets, or in this case, how many completed tickets do we have for each of our different buildings, and how much does each of those cost? So how much money have we spent on each of our different buildings in each month for maintenance? So 2 pages, and just like super powerful, gives you a lot of firepower there for what you're actually doing. So I won't get into too much other detail here. You can also do some really cool little, just kind of high level 30,000 foot view tags of different months or year to date or fiscal years of how many different people actually submitted tickets, and how many have we completed, and how many are still open, and how much did all those things cost. So and any of these different individual pages can also be kind of stacked together into a single report, and that report can be on a schedule emailed to somebody. So if you do have your boss or somebody higher up that wants to know about what's going on in the system but doesn't really want to be a user, you can either obviously come in and print reports yourself and send them to them, or you can have the system just directly email them some sort of comprehensive PDF, kind of giving them the high level view. Incidentally, I'll just show the little, there's an online version of help. So again, as I mentioned earlier, this can be built right in the UI, where you can just sort of click on stuff to mark it as a numeric, and then fill in sort of the details here. So that's sort of the user view of the help, but you can also download that as a PDF and email it to somebody if they're confused about how to log in or something like that. This is the format that's sort of built in with our system. So
awesome.